I've been up editing all night and I'm actually really tired, but I've just been through dozens and dozens of clips and I came to this TED Talk from 2017 called Conspiracy Theories and the Problem of Disappearing Knowledge. And I have to say that this is one of the most brain liquefying TED Talks. I've had to listen to a lot of TED Talks in the last 7 years since we started doing this. And this has got to be one of just the most, I can't even think of a good phrase. No, yeah, soul crushing's too simple. Just the adjective for when you want to cheese grate yourself naked over a cactus. That's how I feel about this TED Talk.
Conspiracy theorists are on the national stage like never before.
So a question that keeps coming up is, why are so many people suddenly making it their business to argue for shutting down conspiracies, or to try to shame them, or to try to act like they categorically don't matter, but they're also very harmful?
Conspiracy.
Conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory.
Really insane conspiracy theories.
Why are so many people suddenly coming out of the fray and making that their topic du jour, their keynote speech, and making sure that's really the important focus right now? Well, it's a rhetorical question. I think it's clear that this is coordinated, but this one takes the cake.
That's the thing. They're trying to make it seem as though if you are somebody who's trying to look into an alternative explanation for things because the little voice in your head is telling you something's not quite right with something, for whatever reason, they want to make it seem as though now that's a dangerous practice. It's dangerous. It's a circular argument. They can't really prove to you that, say, for example, not believing in NASA's official version of the moon landing is dangerous, but they want everyone to think so. They want everyone to think that if you research or look into conspiracy theories, that's dangerous. We already showed you how they've even done scientific studies now where they're trying to say people who are conspiracy theorists are potentially more likely to be criminals, which was a complete joke as far as science goes. But this TED Talk, I'm apologizing ahead of time for what you're about to see, but this is the argument for why conspiracy theories are, I guess, dangerous. To what this guy refers to as the problem of disappearing knowledge.
One of the actual and indeed intended effects of the proliferation of fake news and conspiracy theories is to undermine, to erode our confidence in our ability to know what the world around us is like and how it works.
Okay.
I'm a philosopher and I feel so endangered by ideas.
I don't
Other people's arguments. It's like they want to make me believe them.
Okay. This is what I mean, okay? This is what I mean. This is this guy's TED Talk. But listen, that's just the start.
So supposing that I believe the official account, as people like to call it, the official account of what happened on 9/11. Now, if I'm exposed to lots and lots of conspiracy theories about 9/11, the result of that exposure may well be to make me doubt what actually happened. I might end up thinking, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was a conspiracy.
Because if somebody tells you something that provides you with further information about an event, and that evidence is weighed against the original evidence you were given about said event, calling into question the original story you were given, that might make you doubt the official story. This is the argument. I don't even understand it, really.
As a philosopher, I've spent the last 20 years of my career putting people who question the world and the way the world really works up on a pedestal. And today, I'm very upset about people who are questioning the world and how it works in conspiracy theories.
Right?
And furthermore, as a philosopher, I'm well aware of how unjust it was that Socrates was stoned to death for corrupting the youth with his ideas, but I'd like to basically stone to death conspiracy theorists for corrupting the youth with their ideas.
I can't even form words.
Thank you. I'm here 5 nights a week. It's a low-paying gig.
Sorry, it's just, this is what the system is resorting to.
How these ideas are so dangerous.
The biggest 9/11 conspiracy theories and how or if they were ever debunked.
The result of that exposure may well be to make me doubt what actually happened. I might end up thinking, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was a conspiracy.
It's as if these people are literally arguing for all of humanity to go back to the Dark Ages. They're literally arguing for only a select small group of people to be able to spoon feed you all of your information about anything that happens, and then you're supposed to just trust that. Full stop. No critical thinking skills. No, don't ask never ask any questions about anything. Shut down all debate. Shut down all investigation. I mean, really?
Okay, now that effect, that transformation of my attitude towards 9/11 was brought about by my exposure to a particular theory, exposure to conspiracy theories.
Again, this would be as if all police officers anywhere, all police detectives that ever existed on the history of the planet, show up to a crime scene and immediately make a decision about whatever it is they see instantly. And then any other information that comes up after that instant first decision is like, no, I'm sorry. I already have my knowledge set. If you confront me with further evidence, you are disappearing my official first knowledge or whatever this is. So now it's changing my knowledge and making it disappear. This is not a good argument. This is terrible. I cannot believe this is even a TED Talk for real.
And I want to suggest that that is fundamentally the point of these theories. I mean, of course, sometimes people put forward conspiracy theories because they want to discredit somebody or for some other reason. But one of the effects of these theories is to implant doubts in our minds and to make us no longer confident in our own beliefs about the way the world works.
And if history shows one thing, it's that killing an idea before it can be thought about makes thinking easier.
Okay. Again, who gave you those beliefs about how the world works to begin with? Was it you, or was it a government who maybe had, I don't know, a vested interest in you believing a certain version of events? Was it a mainstream media outlet who gets paid by a government who has a vested interest in you believing those events? I could go on, but this is ridiculous. This is what the system is going to be telling people now. Here's the thing. Everything that we know about what is going on in the world today is mediated largely through technology. I mean, most of us are not at these events. Most of us are not there when some of these things go down. And so at that point, we're required then to look into these things if we really want to know what's going on, and to act like we have to then just accept whatever the initial official story is for everything. Can you imagine if all of humanity just did that? I mean, how far back would humanity as a whole be set back if only the people in power were allowed to tell you what to think about something, and then you were not allowed to do any critical thinking for yourself, any further investigation? You were just supposed to shut down and accept whatever that was.
I hear your words, and I know you're trying to confuse me with a conspiracy theory, but if history and philosophy shows one thing, it's that people in power never lie or kill or do bad things for greater power or gain.
Anything you ever thought of that you maybe thought was a conspiracy, that's just, you should have just stuck with the official story. I mean, your knowledge disappeared because you didn't.
Now, of course, from the perspective of the conspiracy theorists, that's exactly the aim. I mean, the thought that someone who wants to propose one of these theories may have is that, well, you have no right to believe the official account because the official account is in fact false.
Okay, I don't agree with that at all.
Doesn't make sense.
That makes no sense. If you're a quote unquote conspiracy theorist in the pejorative, the way this guy's obviously using it, a la the 1967 CIA memo, use this again and again and again. The same tactics, the same elements from the CIA memo 1967, weaponizing the phrase conspiracy theorist. Well, if you run around telling people you're not allowed to have your beliefs, you only have to believe my beliefs, no one's going to listen to you. That's silly.
I think he's confusing it with the world they want to have, where you're not allowed to question things that happen. Not that people who question them don't think you have a right to believe the official story because it's not true. Actually, there's a philosophical reason that we shouldn't believe things that are not true when facts and arguments support the idea that they're not true. You can believe in them. You're welcome to believe in things that are provably false and ridiculous and just lying. But why would you if you can get closer to the truth by thinking?
I mean, isn't the pursuit of truth supposed to be one of the most important things?
I just can't. I read this guy's bio and I can't get past the fact that he's this trained, prestigious Oxford philosopher, and this is his weak ass argument.
It's really painful. No, it's really painful.
The point I want to make is that actually, regardless of whether the official account is true or not, regardless of that, I can still go from my initial state of believing something to not believing it as a result of exposure to conspiracy theories.
Okay, again, why is that bad? That is fundamentally how human beings work. If I put my hand on a stove and I burn myself, I've now learned putting my hand on the stove is bad. I have now taken my new information. I have informed myself, and in the future, it will help me to not burn my hand on a stove. That's a basic, fundamental way that we as humans work.
As a living creature with any brain cells, I can go from believing one thing to another when facts persuade me and I have more information and realize there's more to it.
You're disappearing knowledge and you're making me question reality, and that's wrong.
Now, of course, the 9/11 example is very, very controversial, and I don't want to take a stand on that for today's purposes. So let me now...
Okay, good. He's not going to take a
He's not
stand on that.
going to take a stand on that or probably anything, but he will take a stand on this ridiculous argument.
For example, which I hope is much less controversial. So one of the most pernicious conspiracy theories around today is the theory that the Holocaust is a myth.
Starting from that point with something you're not allowed to question, we can expand into other areas that we cannot be allowed to question. And by this, philosophy tells us not to question anything.
No, that's not how philosophy works. No. Let's fast forward this.
I think there's also a moral obligation to stand up for the truth.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree. Now, see, he actually said something I agree with. But unlike what he's saying, I think you should do that even if you have a 20 years Oxford-trained professor standing up on a stage in a suit telling you you're wrong for doing so.
Yeah, that's why conspiracy theorists go out of their way, risk their lives, spend their time, go to places, and speak against people who are trying to shut them down, have them arrested, shout at them, ridicule them. They do it from a moral obligation, from a sense of, my God, what has happened here and how could they?
Exactly. First of all, exactly to what Aaron said. Secondly,
there's also a moral obligation to stand up for the truth. There's a moral obligation to stand up for the facts.
There's a moral obligation to stand up for the facts?
There's a moral obligation to stand up for the facts.
Why is there a moral obligation for you as an average person to be told an official story from on high, whether that be from a government, a mainstream media outlet, a major tech corporation, an expert of some kind that tells you something? Why do you then have a moral obligation to go around parroting that information that was just told to you? I mean, you didn't invest your time researching into that information. So what is your obligation to what that person said? Are you supposed to be a propagandist for their point of view? I don't understand this.
Well, if you actually, I mean, all joking aside, what he's really arguing in this very tiresome and weak argument is that what's dangerous is when people who are not authorities employ facts to try to find information to make decisions for themselves. He's actually ultimately arguing that what's dangerous is people not labeled as authorities thinking for themselves. That's what he thinks is dangerous
He's about to
as a
say that.
philosopher.
It's not a game. I mean, it actually matters what happened.
Yes, it matters if we're being lied to about it. It matters if large portions of people have no idea what happened and they're not being told the truth by their corrupt government. Yes, I would say that absolutely does matter. I think our government has a pretty long history of lying to us, okay? And also being horribly corrupt. So why then are we supposed to just trust everything that they say and having a bunch of people who are just basically sheep and accept whatever they're told about anything without questioning anything for themselves, without doing any of their own research, and just have their brains flipped open and have information poured in from on high? Is pretty dangerous for an entire society of people. That's a scary idea to be promoting at a TED Talk.
In the Second World War, it actually matters what happened on 9/11 and so on. So again, it's important, it's essential to actually show what the facts are, to concentrate on the facts. And I think it's important also not to be suckered into thinking that, well, it's all a matter of opinion. It isn't all a matter of opinion.
Okay, but if you're only told one version of everything and you just assume it's the truth every time you're told it, then that is your opinion. That doesn't make it a fact. That's not how facts work.
It's a matter of what actually happened.
Yeah.
I'm going to fast forward this. I'm sorry.
Of course, now we run into a real practical problem. And the practical problem is that most of us lack the expertise to really be able to say what the evidence shows. I mean,
here
with
we go.
regard
This
to
is the
9/11,
part.
I'm not a structural engineer.
This is where he basically says rule by experts.
I mean, with regard to 9/11, I'm not a structural engineer, I'm not a physicist, I'm not in a position really to determine what happened that day. In the case of the Holocaust, I'm not a historian. I mean, I don't have the historical knowledge or the skills to defend the official account on the basis of documentary evidence. So there's a kind of problem now. The problem is that on the one hand, it's very easy to lose knowledge by having these theories put to you. And
Again, how is getting more information about an event losing knowledge? I don't feel like he's really made that argument.
You see, as a philosopher, it's a bit of a quandary to have more things to think about and consider than just what we were directly told. It's just a lot easier to accept it as a truth because I'm a philosopher. I didn't go into structural engineering, so I don't have understanding of physics
Well,
or
I'm not really
gravity.
getting the sense.
I'm not the expert in gravity. I don't need to ponder whether or not gravity, affects the falling of a building.
I'm also not getting the sense that he's an expert in philosophy, although that's what his bio claims. So I'm not really getting that sense either. I feel like every person should be insulted by this even being a speech. This is insulting to all of humanity, to the quest for truth, to the pursuit of knowledge altogether. I mean, it's just insulting.
And that problem is made worse by the fact that actually most of us don't have the expertise that's required to respond. And of course, that's in many ways what these theories exploit.
So you're only able to make decisions about something if you're an expert. If you're not an expert, then it doesn't matter that you A, know how to read, B, have critical thinking skills. That doesn't matter. Are you an expert? Do you have a business card with a title on it?
It's about staying within your lane, and ordinary people, they've been put with questions like Coke or Pepsi or chips and dip, and you need to stick with the questions that you're qualified for. And
don't tell me about other types of chips
I'm not
and
making
dip. I
fun
only
of
have
the-
one type of chip and dip, and I'm sorry. I like that kind. Don't question it by offering me other kinds. You will make me lose. My knowledge will disappear. Okay? Stop it.
By the way, I'm not making fun of British people with my bad fake British accent. It's just, it's an appeal to authority in and of itself to pose as an intellectual elite from Oxford with a moral philosophy degree and then down talk people as if they're ridiculously unable to think for themselves and actually argue to them that they should simply accept expertise and not do the thinking for themselves. Because that's what he's arguing, that ultimately ordinary people thinking for themselves, that's what's dangerous. You know, unless you're consuming information given you by the experts
and the authorities.
So you may think you know what's going on, but somebody says to you, yes, but what about this? What about that? What's your answer to this question? What's your answer to that question? And it's very easy to get to the point of saying, well, I don't know. Hey, leave me alone. I don't know.
Which is fair, but also, I guess he's saying just stay inside your box. Just stay inside the matrix blissfully. Just don't ever be told anything that questions or anything your reality whatsoever.
And because, of course, that was the great answer of every great philosopher. I don't know, man. Leave me alone. I don't have time. I'm looking for chips and or dip at the store, man.
You're going to disappear my knowledge by giving me other knowledge. I can't even talk about it.
It's not really the knowledge, man. It's giving me like a splitting headache. I'm on a walk. Like slip into a bad Mike Myers impression.
You're about to. I think you are. That's the bad effects of this. I think
if you like posit that authorities like know what's true, then you could just like accept that and know that that is what truth is based on, and the proof of truth is in the authority of the expert, and then we can all go to sleep at night, man.
Yeah, because none of these authorities, experts, government officials, heads of religious institutions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. None of them have vested interest in controlling information or locking down what is or is not truth or a fact. This reminds me of Orwell's 1984, which I've been reading again because I feel like now I'm probably going to have to start reading that book at least once every year just so I can match it up to what's actually going on, because that's what this is right here, for sure. But in that book, there was a specific delineation made between the truth, which is what actually is true, versus quote-unquote facts, which were carefully controlled and managed and doled out by the Ministry of Truth, which definitely had a vested interest in what information people were getting or not getting. So this guy keeps saying facts, but I think we need to start realizing in the world we live in the 21st century, where everything is mediated by television and the internet, we need to start realizing there's a difference now, I think, between truth and quote-unquote the official facts.
I'll take you one step further. I think in a society that's mediated by so much media and state authorities, the truth may be unknowable. And therefore, the truths that are supposedly so upfront and so digestible and so ready-made should probably be questioned more so than other types of truth, because let's get as close as we can to the truth. Let's think about it. Let's think it through. Let's use arguments, let's try to figure it out. But when it's just ready made on a plate and it's like, hey man, that's the truth. Just swallow it. Really?
If this is what professors are teaching their students in modern colleges, we as a human race should all be horrified. Horrified. Okay? Horrified.
Well, I think it's true that most of us don't have the expertise and don't have the time to really tackle these theories head on. But fortunately, there are people who do have the expertise and who do have the time, and these people are called experts. So we're sometimes told that we don't need experts, or that, there's no such thing as an expert. It's just your opinion or it's just my opinion. And I think that's exactly what needs to be resisted. I think whether someone is an expert or not, for example, an expert on German history or an expert on aeronautical engineering, that is not a matter of opinion. Whether someone is competent and qualified to pronounce on these subjects is, I think, to some extent an objective matter. It's a matter of their qualifications, their experience, their knowledge, and so on, their track record. These are all the relevant factors.
Look, man, Plato and they always prove that, there's never hacks or flunkies or government stooges. There's never people that are just
no one has a vested interest
to, reflect, the official position.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
That never happens. I don't know what you're talking about.
If they're put in a position of authority, it's because they're the greatest.
Look, if they have an office with their name on the door and a business card and a huge government and or corporate grant, then obviously they're an expert. So you should just believe them. And you, little person who doesn't have that, don't ask any questions. Just never. Your knowledge will disappear if you start questioning outside the box of the so-called experts.
So I think that when faced with this threat of the loss of knowledge.
The threat of the loss of knowledge. I want to put that on a bumper sticker. That is so Orwellian.
The threat of the loss of knowledge doesn't come from hiding or destroying or making illegal certain information. It comes from being confronted with that information and being asked to think about it. How simple is it, people? I have letters after my name, and I have letters both before and after my name.
My name is also made out of letters. This hurts me. It actually hurts me to listen to this man say this.
It just does hurt more that it comes from a quote-unquote philosopher.
This is the level we're at right now in society, that they've got this happening, that this man is on stage saying
Case
this.
in point, I'm an expert in thinking, so don't even try.
The only way to really protect our knowledge, the only way to actually say, look, there is a difference between truth and falsity, there is the possibility of deciding what happened, is to draw on the work of people who are competent to judge.
Ruled by experts.
No, the truth comes out of the reason and the evidence itself. That's what we're supposed to be competent to judge upon, not judging by the supposed expertise and experience of the person who's making the decision. You're supposed to make the decision based upon the evidence. That's where the truth comes from, if it's accessible at all. This is philosophy 101, and this guy's terrible at it, and he's one of the most distinguished philosophy professors.
This is the level we're at. They're putting people on stage to tell people this is why they should not allow conspiracy theories to quote-unquote disappear their knowledge. If there's anything good that's coming out of this at all, this smacks of some of the most pungent desperation I think I've ever witnessed, ever. I mean, the fact that this isn't a parody that I'm showing you right now, or like the extras on the Idiocracy DVD or something.
You told me this was an SNL sketch.
No, this is a real TED Talk that actually happened in 2017.
Oh, they're so easy just to make talks on stages with suits and those red letter things behind them.
I've had to watch a lot of TED Talks over the last decade while we've been doing this, and by far and away, I can't think of one that's made me feel more like I wish I could just de-atomize myself and float in the void of existence for a while to unhear it than this.
That's the evaporation of knowledge, baby.
Oh God, please stop.
And I think it's worth also asking those who are propounding these various conspiracy theories, it's worth asking them, well, what's your competence to judge?
Well, I have a special skill known as the ability to smell shit. You see, sometimes after I step on dog crap, I'm soon able to smell it. And then I realize I've stepped on dog shit. What an expertise. And and sometimes when I hear the media talk, I realize it's that smell again.
Because you have to be qualified to be able to research things for yourself and then independently make your own decisions. If you're not qualified to do that by some special magical qualification, if you didn't go to Oxford, I guess, then really all you are qualified to do is sit there and be told what everything that's going on in the world by the experts who are going to run and control and rule everything. And you don't get to make your own independent evaluation of things based on your own research. Instead, you are not qualified enough to do that. So you must give all of your intellectual capacity over to the experts.
It's all very well you saying that you don't know what you're talking about. You're not qualified to judge. Are they qualified to judge? Some of them might be, but certainly not all.
Everyone is qualified to judge. We're not gonna take humanity back to where only certain special, qualified, elite people are allowed to judge basic information. That is a terrible, terrible idea. It goes against everything that we should be about as a human race. I'm sorry. These appeal to authority, rule by experts people, they blow my mind. This is not a good argument at all. Everyone is now dumber for having heard this. I'm sorry.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Are they qualified to judge? Some of them might be, but certainly not all. Okay, so that's the story I want to tell.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
It seems to me that all of us now are living in a world in which there is a tremendous amount of stuff out there, online particularly. There's a conspiracy theory for absolutely everything, and I'm certainly not saying that all conspiracy theories are false.
Could have fooled me.
Just the ones that matter.
And I don't really want to get into a discussion of the truth or falsity of particular conspiracy theories, but what I...
Because I won't be able to do it.
Because I'll lose.
But what I do want to suggest to you is that these theories can have this effect of just bewildering us, of making us think, it's just all too complicated. I just don't know what to think anymore.
Is that really the worst thing, to be confused because you've now been told something? I mean, I don't even understand any of the logic of this talk at all. It actually hurts my brain.
His argument is also like, I don't know, it's all confusing. It's just too much. We can't just,
Let's just get an expert in here to tell me what to think.
Do you want the truth or don't you want the truth? That's really what this is
It
about.
really is. That is what it's about.
And the ultimate result is the whole idea of, well, there's no such thing as truth. Hence, post-truth politics. And I think that's what needs to be avoided.
No,
is
it's
what
just you
Bilderberg
can't
said.
get to the truth in a world that confines the truth and tries to use a magic eraser on it and throws people in jail and deletes their accounts who try to tell the truth. That's a world where it seems like there's no truth because they do everything they can
To bury
keep
it.
you from the jewel of the truth and to let you not even know that it's there.
Exactly.
That way you'll accept the artificial truth and the ersatz truth that they're spoon feeding you.
And I think that's what needs to be avoided.
That's what needs to be avoided. Meanwhile, the Bilderberg group last year, that was one of the things on the list, the post-truth world. Because they know that that's what they're doing right now. If they can relegate something into the fringes and say it's conspiracy theory, no matter how much merit it has, if it goes against this consensus or the status quo and they can just bury it, then they can determine what quote-unquote facts are. I think, if anything, this shows the desperation level, and I think that what it means is we have to be even that much more vigilant to look into things for ourselves, because the clampdown, the Orwellian clampdown on information right now it's just getting started. It's just now starting to happen. I don't think we're anywhere near the levels this is going to go to, because they've already drawn the lines on the things that they want to shut down involving historical information, scientific information, medical information. So I think we're just at the precipice of that. And they're going to remake the world based on the values and what they determine is what they want for the status quo and the centrist position on everything. And everything else is going to be shut down and buried and censored off of the web, out of existence. And I mean, what we should be asking ourselves is, if there's no merit to any of that information, then why do they have to go so hard out of their way to bury it and shut it down?
In fact, there are and have been genuine conspiracies.
What they want is a population that is once again unable to think because they're unwilling to think, because they believe that it's dangerous to think the same way they believe that it's dangerous to go outside their house and engage in the world. And they want them to shop, and they want them to sit at home and watch things, and they want them to smile and pretend to be happy and then go to sleep and do it all over again.
intellectually passive consumers. Cannot believe, with all of the technology and the supposed progress they keep saying that we're making as a human race, this is the level that we're actually at with what they're telling us. This is our so-called experts standing on stage telling us not to think for ourselves.
Let's see. We were going through the world's top dangers, and we had cancer and heart attacks. Can't do anything about that. Car accidents, really dangerous, but we already have seatbelt laws requiring people to buckle up. Lightning strikes, kind of random. Thinking and talking on the internet. Let's just have blanket censorship. That'll get rid of the most dangerous things in the world altogether. Let's just not have people question anything or think, because experts. Look, I have nothing against this guy in particular. I'm sure he's nice in many respects. He should be allowed to do his flunky job. But I think it's ridiculous how often and how precisely they try to use the logical fallacy, and philosophers should know this above anyone, the logical fallacy of appeal to authority while he's on the stage telling people to accept authority and not to think for themselves. He's doing the same thing every other so-called expert does, stand on a TED Talk stage behind a fancy backdrop with an earpiece microphone and a fairly expensive suit, holding a power presentation remote and telling people he's the expert and that they should listen to what he says, but not think for themselves. Or at least not think very much, other than to regurgitate the thoughts they've been told from on high up on the stage, and those are the thoughts they should carry. That's what they should repeat in the press and the sound bites. But anything else on the web, that's dangerous, because it sounds convincing. And what if it's true?
What if it is?
That's the biggest problem. No, I think the biggest problem we have is that maybe a lot of those conspiracy theories are true, which might mean people have to accept or contemplate that certain players are bad whom they trusted, and the many things going on in this world are far worse than they imagine, because it's not simply that tragedy strikes and there's terrible events sometimes, but that they might be planned and coordinated and used for manipulative purposes by someone other than it appears to be. That's what they don't want people thinking about, because if they think about it too long, they'll realize, oh shit, that might be true. Because it's been true before, because I tripped and stumbled into a history book and realized it happens all the time. Oh, this they're going for the marbles here.
I just can't believe it's the level that we're at, that they got people to put on an expensive suit and get on stage and say this nonsensical drivel, and by the virtue of what he's saying, you're not supposed to question him either. So it's all built in.
He's on the stage with the suit. That's what I'm saying.
That's
what philosophy's taught him.
That's what
Philosophy's taught him not to think it through and have a good argument, but to have a really nice suit and a position on the stage so your ideas don't get buried because you're in the audience.
I mean, I have 3 degrees, including a master's degree. But I don't go around touting that. What I go around touting when I talk about anything is the evidence and the information that I have found. And that is what I present. And then I tell people, make up your own mind about what I've told you. I'm not telling you to trust me just because I said it. Trust what you're seeing in the information and the evidence because you saw it with your eyeballs.
This has been said before and it needs to be said again right now. Truth is authority. Authority is not truth.
The motto should not be ignore, ignore, ignore. The motto should be rebut, rebut, rebut. Thanks for listening.